skills with a particular focus on musculoskeletal conditions. Now, this is a subject that's quite dear to my heart. My husband manages multiple and complex conditions, and has recently been diagnosed with quite a significant back problem, and is under the care of local clinicians. And by local, to me, I mean in Nottingham. I'd like to introduce you to two of my colleagues that are here with us today. Sarah can't be here. She's chosen the most fantastic week to be on holiday and is probably sat in the garden or walking or doing some outside activity, which is really lovely. She might even have gone to Tenerife or Lanzarote, who knows? But if I could just get Rob to introduce himself. So this is Rob Letchford. If you can just say who you are, Rob.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. Hi, everybody. My name's Rob. I'm a physiotherapist by trade, but I'm here in my job as a National Clinical Lead for the Musculoskeletal Strategic Clinical Network, which is a bit of a mouthful, but essentially it's a network within the new NHS executive, which is dedicated to improving services and improving the musculoskeletal health of Wales. And I'm sat here today with a short-term musculoskeletal condition, having fallen over last week on top of my other longer-term conditions. But hopefully this will be short-term and go away pretty quickly. So, but it's taking my breath away at the moment. So, lovely to have you all on board. Having lived experience as part of the network is really, really important to all of us. And we're hoping with this help we can create a really nice network that can make sure that everybody's voices are heard and included in the discussions and the debates about how we go forwards in Wales. So thank you very much, Liz.
Okay, thank you. Julianne, do you want to say who you are? You are the key to all of this. You are the font of all knowledge, the person that everyone can ask questions of. So if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julianne. It's so lovely to see so many of you on this call today. And I work for the Musculoskeletal Network. So any email queries or any information that you have, that you require, if you just send them to me and I'll get back to you. Okay, thank you.
Lovely. So I think what would be a really good idea is I start to share my screen and talk you through a PowerPoint. We'll save some time at the end in case you have any questions. If you're anything like me, if you have a question, jot it down so it's not forgotten. And then hopefully we'll have time to answer all the questions. We are fairly limited on time today, so if we're unable to answer everyone's questions, I don't know whether you're familiar with the chat function in Teams. If you type your question into chat, we'll make every effort to make sure that we answer all of those questions and get back to you. This meeting is being recorded, so you can play it back at your leisure and revisit some of the slides if you wanted to. And as I say, Julianne, her email and my email are at the end, so that if you do have any questions that you think, oh, I didn't have a chance to ask that, I really wish I had, then please do kind of let us know, and we'll make every effort to get in touch. Now, you've probably noticed that I do a lot of talking with my hands, so whilst I'm going through the presentation, so that it's not distracting for you, because I have been told it can be quite distracting when I'm waving my hands around, I'll turn my video off, but obviously when we're answering questions, I'll pop it back on again. It's just easier, and I just get quite animated and it just gets a little bit distracting. So I'm just going to try and share my screen now. I will apologise now that I have been known to, when I've stopped sharing my screen, because the share button's next to leave, I have sometimes accidentally left. If I do that, when I stop sharing, I will jump straight back on, and I'll try and make a note to myself not to do that. So I'm just going to share my screen into a slideshow, and you can tell me if you can see that. Can you see that?
Yes.
Is it just one slide on the screen? You haven't got my notes or anything?
No, MSK LED slide.
Fantastic.
But down the side is all the photographs of people. I can close that off, can I?
You can, yes, if you wanted to.
Okay.
You don't
it just
have
says content is being shared on mine, and I still have the gallery.
Oh, right, okay.
Let's see. if I can change.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Just
not
give
it.
us a shout, Jana, when you're able to start. Okay. Shall I go for it then?
Yes.
Okay, I've got it now. Thank
Okay,
you.
that's brilliant. I'm just going to turn off my video now so you don't get distracted with my hands. So this next slide is just a slide that's talking about our lived experience group. And I know that you guys perhaps don't need the background, and I probably don't need to tell you some of this, but I think it's really important that we set the scene and we set the scene appropriately. So what we know is that musculoskeletal conditions affects bones, joints, and muscles. Most are painful. Some involve inflammation, but all impact on a person's ability to move and do the activities they enjoy. Some of these conditions resolve without treatment. Rob was saying that he hopes his little injury resolves without any treatment and it'll soon go away. Or some resolve with simple and less complex treatments. But there are always those that can be lifelong and will be required, and treatment will be required throughout life. So, what's happened so far is that science has helped us create clinical guidelines that tell us what treatments are safe and effective. And all of these guidelines highlight the importance of the person as an individual, understanding their specific needs and working together. So, what we're really talking about here is all the evidence is leading us to the conclusion that a person centered approach is best. And so, to improve our ability to deliver this approach, we're creating a space for everyone to work together, have a voice, and bring about meaningful change. So, this will be our lived experience group. Oh, I've gone too far. There we go. So, this space here is kind of the beginnings of our MSK lived experience group in Wales. And its ambition is, as it says here, is to provide a safe space for individuals who have personally experienced challenges or situations to share their insights and knowledge, which is crucial when we're thinking about policy, designing services and co-producing services. And really we're advocating for change in a way that truly reflects, it says their lives, but your lives, my lives, that of my husband. And in turn, this leads to more effective solutions and improved outcomes for the community at large. So when we're thinking about co-production, what we're saying is that there are some things that will happen. We do know that co-production challenges the conventional model of public services. So what this means in practice is that we're starting perhaps from a position of where it says here a product is delivered to a customer from on high. So it's led by the services. And what we're wanting to do is to shift our mindset and move into the top right-hand rectangle that talks about the devolvement of power, choice and control to people who are using services, communities and frontline staff. So we're really looking for a shift of a mindset. We want to move from people using services being seen as burdens on an overstretched system to the place where people using services are assets. They're the real wealth and they're too often untapped and wasted. So we're really hoping that we build and create our lived experience group with that in mind, that the wealth of knowledge and information sits with you and we need to work very closely together to make sure we're harnessing that. So that statement is really recognising the infinite nature of power. Sometimes there's this fear of diminishing professional status. So a professional may be there, if we devolve power, then we lose it, and there's only so much power to go round. What I know about co-production is that by giving power to people and communities so that they can take more responsibility, we can all achieve more and we all have power. So that's our starting point when we're thinking about lived experience and our lived experience group. So just to reinforce and take a little bit of time to think about and share why this is important, there are just some bullet points here. So this is important for those reasons that I said previously, but really wanting to think about within our lived experience group, we want to ensure that there is authentic perspectives included. Nobody but yourselves knows more and has any more detail about what it's like to live with an MSK condition than yourselves. You have a nuanced understanding of the barriers and challenges. You can share real insights with other members of the group to bring about meaningful change. The second bullet point is referring to empowerment, and I sometimes struggle with this word. We're not giving or bestowing power to people. It's not my power to give to you. But what it is that we're creating and adjusting the conditions for people with the conditions, taking back that power and really talking to us and helping us grow and develop. We've mentioned about it being a person-centred approach, so placing individuals at the centre, incorporating all lived experience into services and policies, ensuring that we're meeting need. We're thinking about reducing stigma, so openly discussing lived experience, really talking about what it means to be living with MSK condition. Then if we think about that a little bit more, what we're really acknowledging is that we are all users of the service. Rob's alluded to the fact that he's a physio, he's working in the NHS exec in Wales, he's managing long-term conditions, he's got a bit of an MSK condition going on. So what I'm trying to describe is that we are all more than our condition. We all have skills, experiences that we can share. For myself, I manage a mental health condition. I support my husband who manages multiple and complex long-term conditions, which means that he doesn't leave the house very often. We're all more than the title that we bring. And this idea of reducing stigma is bringing us all into the same space to share thoughts and ideas from multiple perspectives. We're thinking about equity and inclusion, and we're actively seeking to gather our diverse voices. We're thinking about quality improvement. We want improvements in services. We want them to be accessible. We want them to be open to as many people as possible for the times when we're thinking about community building and really creating this sense of community where we can grow and share thoughts and ideas and bring about this meaningful change. And what we're really hoping is that by centering lived experience, the lived experience group members will be able to lead discussions based on their own experiences and provide a safe space for this diverse perspective. We remind ourselves as we go into this lived experience group that not all of our experiences are bad. There will be opportunities to build on successes and grow those successes as we go along. There is something about our lived experience group creating a culture where everyone is respected. And as we develop the group, these will continue to grow and develop as our set of values. So if we take the first one, dignity and respect, really showing care and consideration of each other. Oh, gone on. So then we're thinking about reciprocity, where we're in a space where I'm in that space expecting to learn from you and you may expect to learn from me. This idea of reciprocity and reciprocal relationships, learning from each other and being really open to that. Our other values relate to commitment and transparency. So this is all about being open and honest and committed to our ambitions as a collective. So all of the decisions should be transparent. We shouldn't be making decisions behind closed doors. We should be in our lived experience group talking about matters that are important to us, sharing thoughts and ideas. And those thoughts and ideas should be what we act on away from the group. We shouldn't be saying one thing in the group and doing something elsewhere. So commitment and transparency are hugely important. The idea of empowerment again, but this thing about power and equity. So we're sharing power. So that will involve some of the clinicians, other people, managers and so on in services, relinquishing or sharing some of that power. And equity, when I'm talking about equity, I'm referring to fairness and justice. And it's distinguished from equality because equality means that we're providing the same thing to all. But equity recognises that we don't all start from the same place. And we seek to make adjustments to make differences to any imbalances. And then we're thinking about inclusivity and intersectionality. So inclusivity is all about equal access to opportunities and resources for people who might otherwise be excluded or marginalised, and really thinking about this word and what it means in relation to intersectionality. In our group, we'll be creating a way of understanding how different aspects of a person's identity overlap and create a unique experience of discrimination and privilege. And this idea of intersectionality can help explain and understand why some people face more discrimination than others. And I think it's incumbent on our lived experience group to really think about those things. Think about the times when we may have all been excluded from things that we wanted to do. And we're going to endeavour in the lived experience group not to do that. There are some enablers to our group. Financing is really important. Thinking about, remuneration for people who are attending the group will become important, and ensuring that this lived experience group has longevity. So it goes beyond our setup phase and leads and supports Rob and others in the clinical network to really think about how we're going to continue to sustain and grow lived experience. It's all about redistributing power and thinking about creating this idea of integrated approaches. So no one size fits all, being creative, thinking outside of the box, thinking about what's important to us. The capacity building becomes important because many of us, as we get older, we find that we have less time to give to things, we have different commitments. But this idea of building capacity within the network to continue to think about and place lived experience at its core is going to be really important. And institutional engagement is crucial. So the fact that Rob and colleagues within the NHS Exec Wales and within the clinical network are really thinking about and wanting to involve people in the work of the network. There will be some actions following on from the group. I haven't been able to write what they would be because we haven't got the group yet, but it really is about commitment and follow through. And the lived experience group will have a role in holding people to account for the things that they said they're going to do and how we're going to do it. So when we establish our lived experience group, we'll have some meetings and we will start to think about how we're going to work together. And that will be decided by the group at our first meeting. It's really important, as I say, that everyone's voice is taken into consideration, everyone's voice is heard. And really thinking about how we will need to work together. How do we provide you with information that is accessible, given that when I'm in pain and when my husband's in pain, there is a fluctuating ability, I guess, to think about and complete actions, and making sure that we give time for that we ensure you have time to read, to think about, to discuss, to debate. But we will decide all of this in our first meeting. We'll have a group agreement that will be developed by the group and that we'll all have signed up to and agreed to adhere by. This is sometimes, from an IMROC perspective, called a Let's Be agreement, but really it's a group agreement where we've all said what's important to us and how we want to be in the space. But it's perhaps important for you to hear from me in particular, but how we will ensure that the group is safe and encourages active listening and ensure everyone's voice is valued, that we are respectful and everyone is able to work with others who may have different views to our own. We will use inclusive language and we will provide support and resources to help inform the discussions. And at the heart of all of this is taking an asset-based approach, ensuring the group remains focused on the outcomes, and we have all agreed what we want to achieve. To do this, it's no mean feat, and there will be a need to deliver some training for the lived experience group members, but also for wider stakeholders, so that we're using a common language, so we can really value each other's experiences and expertise, that we're moving away from a them and us culture to one of a coherent, co-productive partnership. Why does that keep happening? Sorry, my screen keeps jumping forward. So thinking about a training package, it's a bespoke package. I've labelled it as training 1 and I've labelled it as training 2. The first training is about providing workshops for the lived experience group members. There'll be 3 2.5-hour workshops with a 4th date to be confirmed, where we can discuss next steps and how we want to move forward. We've started creating the content for this group and we're really thinking about, in session 1, we'll be thinking about the triangle that moved the mountain and what is co-production and why is it important. The triangle focuses on 3 factors. It provides, the first one being providing relevant evidence, research and practice from elsewhere, so that we're sure that we're doing the absolute best that we can do. And that's where the clinical guidelines come in and Rob's expertise and others in the network. We'll be working with local people and organisations and resources to develop a community sensitive approach over time, and we'll be engaging and influencing leaders to create pressure to transform systems. So the triangle that moves the mountain, the third part of that is good governance and leadership. It always feels counterintuitive to have leadership spoken about in co-production. But although co-production is about partnership on an equal basis, unless there is a process that's informed, facilitated, led and serviced, in my experience, it'll stagnate as everyone waits for someone else to speak up or develop rules or make decisions. But what we will do as we explore the triangle that moved the mountain, we will begin to create our approach, the way that we do things within our group. The second workshop will be looking at using lived experiences safely, a little bit about boundaries and expectations, and understanding what the role is of a lived experience group member. So that's kind of incorporated into workshop 2. And workshop 3, thinking about this idea of personal growth, development, thinking about where we can exert influence in the future. We will be looking at and exploring opportunities for personal growth within and beyond the lived experience group. Training 2 is actually 2 workshops, and they're slightly shorter in length. They're 2 hours, and they focus on co-production and working together for wider stakeholders. Again, so that there's synergy between the groups. The first workshop will really explore the triangle that moved the mountain and think about what is co-production and how and why it's important to work together across the network. The second workshop is an opportunity to plan for co-production. And this workshop will include practical exercises and provide useful hints and tips about how to progress with co-production, both within the lived experience group, but also in our day-to-day interactions. And when we're thinking about lived experience and co-production, we know that this happens at multiple levels. It happens with us in this space now, and when we're in the lived experience group, it happens at an individual accessing person-centered care from services is where co-production happens for them. It happens in teams where teams are pulling together, creating new, different, valuable ways of doing things. And it happens at service level where services are really listening to, taking into account and understanding what needs to happen. So this is my final slide, and it's got my email on it and Julianne's. But the next steps really are thinking about how fantastic that you're all here. I'm hoping here would like to join the group. There is a little application form agreed to send out after this webinar. Whoops. Again, it's agreed to send out after this webinar. And the application form just asks you for some personal details, a little bit about why you want to be part of the group, and we'd hope that if possible you could return it to Julianne by the 10th of March. The following week, on the 17th of March, there will be 2 group meetings, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. The contents of those group meetings will be the same, and we will talk about the group, the lived experience group, the expectations, how often the group will run, who will facilitate it, who else will be there, how we're going to link into the wider network, how are we going to really influence upwards the decisions that the network might be making. And you'll be invited, once we've received your application form, you'll be invited to attend one of those meetings, and it's entirely your choice whether a morning or an afternoon would work for you. It's likely to be in the middle of the morning, it's likely to be in the middle of the afternoon after lunch, just for about 90 minutes, just to really start to explore our connections in relation to the group and how we're going to work together. If you'd like to join the training, you'd need to send your names and contact details and which training you'd like to attend to Julianne, and she'll arrange for you to do that. The training is online. It will be delivered by myself, and possibly a colleague of mine called Matt, who might just join me on the training if numbers are quite high. And the third bullet point there, receiving updates, is my personal commitment to you about the lived experience group, and really thinking about how we want to work together and what we will be doing over the coming months. Even if you're not able to join the group, it's really, really important to me that we acknowledge the time that you've given today, and that we would like to keep you updated about our progress in terms of developing the lived experience group. Now, I realise that I probably talk very, very quickly. There's a lot of information that I've just shared. I'm hoping that it makes sense. I'm hoping that I haven't talked too fast. But if you want to ask any questions, I'll do my very, very best to answer. Are there any questions? I don't know how I see whether there are questions, but I'm sure I'll be able to.
I asked one about if you were selected, but you're away for one of the training days. Does that mean you can't join?
No, that doesn't mean you can't join. Was that Sharon that said that? Yeah, Sharon. No, that doesn't mean you can't join.
Okay.
Because we know, don't we, that life gets in the way. We have things, on already. But no, we'd love you to join the group. My ambition, depending how many, I would not want to limit the numbers in the group. I think the group can be as large as we would like it to be. So by putting in your application and coming along to one of the meetings on the 17th, you'll be able to make a decision about whether you want to join us or not. But it doesn't matter
Okay.
if you can't. If you can't attend all the training, it's not a problem. I would probably just sit down with you and talk you through what you missed.
But yeah, because I work as well. There's just one day I'm away with work, so I can't. That's all.
Yeah, I feel absolutely certain that I would be able to find time to sit down with you, Sharon, and talk you through
Lovely.
the
Thank you.
training.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem. Linda.
Yeah, I just the group to know. Whilst I was away, I managed to attend 3 or 4, well, 4 or 5 Teams meetings, and I was abroad. It worked fine, and I was still able to be part of a group meeting. So just to reassure people, really, that even if you are away, it doesn't exclude you. That's all.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. That's really positive, Linda. Thank you. Sylvia, you've got your hand up.
Are these all online meetings, or will there be face-to-face meetings as well, please?
Well, I think they'll all be online at the moment, Sylvia. But as you know, I do like to meet people face to face. I do like to have a good old chat and giggle with people. So I think that the 4th day that we were arranging for the training, I think if anything, that might be the date that we can come together and celebrate the fact that we're a lived experience group, and that would be an in-person event. But I think that would be dependent on number of people that were in the network and what the cost would be of doing that and all of those sorts of things that are kind of outside of my control. But Sylvia, I am in Wales in the middle of April. I'll let you know when I'm there. We can perhaps go for a coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, if I'm free, yes, that'd be nice to meet up again. So, thanks,
Okay.
Liz.
Okay.
Thank you for the information.
Okay. Liz, you've got a question.
I'm just interested with the training. There seems to be an awful lot of it. Is that particularly for people who've never done co-production or ABCD stuff before?
Yeah. I think it is, but I also think that sometimes if you've done co-production and you're in the training space, it enriches the training because, of course, you talk from a very personal and practical perspective if you've done that before. It is a reasonable amount of training, isn't it? And I think for me, it's about ensuring that everybody's in the same space and on the same page and we're able to work together. Have you done lots of co-production work, Liz, previously?
Yeah, I was involved in some of the early ABCD stuff in England before I moved to Wales.
Right. So the asset-based community mapping you've done previously and all of that, yeah. That's a really interesting approach, isn't it? It's not anything that I'd particularly thought about in relation to this lived experience group, but if you could bear to be part of the training, it would be great to have you there because I think there's something about those who have experience can be very, very supportive to those who are new into the space. So it would be great to have you there if you could be there, but it's obviously, I'm not going to say you have to do it if you've done lots of training before, but it would be great to see you there. And I'd love to know a little bit more about what you've done with asset-based community mapping because it's a bit of a passion of mine. So perhaps at some point we'll be able to talk about that as well, Liz. So thank you.
A lot of it seemed to be on Thursdays or Mondays. Is that right? That was a quick look. So it can be.
I've got the dates in my head, but I
Yeah.
haven't. The 17th is a Monday, I know for sure. And then the dates of the training, are they, I thought they were Tuesday. I don't know. I daren't look in my calendar because I'm just worried that I'll hit a wrong button and leave you all or something. So
I'll see when it comes through.
yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you. Are there any more questions from anybody? Okay. Now I'm resisting
the temp.
Oh yes.
Sorry.
Rebecca,
I guess I'm you talked about helping build things up, and it is a good chunk of time to give, and so I'm I guess I'm wondering how much of this is focused on us getting trained and getting on the same page for something, and how much of it is actually going to be moving upward and impacting policy or
Really good.
impacting
Really
impacting the way practitioners are, because that's the major reason I joined, is because services for my condition that was considered rare but is now known to be actually quite widespread are non-existent in Wales, and they just shrug us off and run away.
Yeah.
And it's been getting worse as it's become better known, because they don't know what to do with us.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I would like to be able to have a voice in helping things move in an upward direction and understand that we are impacted by this.
Yeah. There's a lot in that question, isn't there, really?
Yeah, sorry.
No, don't apologize. I love it. I think it's a really great question, because I think for me, we all need to be on the same page. I think that clinicians, managers, people who are colleagues of Rob's in physiotherapy services, everybody who works currently in the NHS needs to understand the power of co-production, because you're right, we want to influence upwards, don't we? We want to bring about change in relation to policy, how services are delivered, design and delivery of new services. But if we work in co-production at the lived experience group level and we don't get the support and we don't train people who are currently working in the NHS with the same processes, if we don't go through sort of co-production with them, we'll never get to that place. Because one of the things that I think needs to happen is that the power still sits with decision makers within services, and part of co-production, the lived experience group, is to devolve that power down to us and actually start to think about how we can inform those decisions. So it's important to me that everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows what we're talking about. Everybody knows what co-production is, what it isn't, how the lived experience group is going to function. The lived experience group won't sit over here and the rest sit over here. There'll be a bridge between the two. So some of the lived experience group members, we yet to be decided how that's going to happen, will directly link into any clinical meetings and any strategy meetings. And that's for us as a group to decide. How do we want that to work? How do we want us to influence? Does that make sense and answer your question, Jana?
Yeah, so it sounds like it is something that would be going forward beyond just the initial training stuff.
Oh my
then,
goodness, yes. Yeah. So it's actually making sure that we're all, language is so important. And I think that one way of making sure we're speaking the same language is to provide training for everybody so that we're on the same page. And that's why the training's important. I've been tasked to work with the lived experience group for 12 months. And then by then it will have a life and energy of its own. It will carry on influencing. And that's why it's important to think about our opportunities as individuals, but also as a collective to grow, develop and influence. That's my bit of a soapbox, that, Jana. I bet you're glad you asked that question. Let's go to, Rebecca. Is it Rebecca? Is that?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Hear me?
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, I don't do cameras because I'm autistic, so
Okay.
I don't like looking at myself. I have a condition similar to Jana. It's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and it is in some cases genetic. And so my son has the condition also. I've managed to gift him this lovely condition. There is no pathway in Wales. I have actually had to travel to London to King's College University Hospital to have treatment, but that's now been stopped because there's too many people going into London to receive treatment for the condition. So I'm kind of just left now. But my concern is that there's no children here, and I'm wondering if you're going to include children in the lived experience, because there's a lot of children living with cerebral palsy, with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and other conditions. And if you're going to include children, there's also the case of you can't just go to schools, because my children can't go to school and therefore I have to home educate, and we're quite often forgotten about when people engage children in these things. So I keep harping on about that.
Yeah.
As another point, I'm just wondering if the European Convention on Human Rights and the rights of the disabled person will be underpinning all of this work, and also the UN Convention on the Rights of Children. And I'm done, thank you.
Really, really important questions there, aren't there, about specific conditions that are currently poorly served. I would hope that when we're moving forward with the lived experience group, that you, if you were to join us, Rebecca, would keep reminding us of the younger voice that needs to be heard. At the moment, this group is established for adults, but I think going forward that we would seriously need to consider this, because there are parent carers, there are carers, there are family and friends, loved ones of people who are managing conditions, that they need to ensure that their loved ones, if they are children, their voices are represented. So if you were to join the group, Rebecca, it would be hugely important to me that you kept reminding us of this. And what will happen over time is that our lived experience group will generate its direction of travel, so that we can ensure that we're meeting the needs of the population of Wales in relation to MSK. The European Convention rights, I think, would be upheld within the lived experience group for adults. We don't, as I say, we haven't actually thought about children as yet, but that doesn't mean that we won't. And I think what I was trying to say at the beginning, Rebecca, was that we are all multiple things, aren't we? And it's incumbent on members of the group to remind each other of the importance of some of the conditions that may be overlooked. And we need to make sure that we set up the groups so that we don't lose information, we don't lose actions, and that we can take action. I hope that's gone some way to answering your question, Rebecca. Okay. Let's go to Rob. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I was just going to come in quickly for to reassure Jana. Absolutely, this is in terms of where we are. We're one of 11 networks that sits within the National Executive, which is a new function in the NHS, and it's all about strategic intent. So what's the future look like? And that's exactly why we've brought you guys into this room today, because we need you involved in that. So absolutely, this has got a future. We've hired Liz for a 12-month period purposely to make sure we get to the point where it's a self-sustaining group with the resources that we've got. So people like Julie, and I've got a couple of other project managers that will be helping us to make this a sustainable thing in the future. So yeah, absolutely, it's all about influence. If it wasn't, I wouldn't have gone there. Yeah, just to reassure that. And I think in terms of Rebecca, a brilliant example of co-production happening already, thanks to Sylvia. I was just about to say there's a network for child health who we work very, very closely with. Sylvia's put the thing up in the chat there, and we work very closely with them. We are one of the forerunners in terms of trying to do this type of exercise, and we're expecting the other networks to learn from what we're doing fairly quickly. So we will have opportunities for children in the future via the Child Health Network. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Should we go to Hilary next? Hi, Hilary. Oh, I can't hear you. You haven't turned on your microphone.
Right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, right. Yeah, I think it's just that I'm not sure that I actually do need to do the training. I kind of get the concept of it, and I've been involved with the survivors group and things like that. I'm quite experienced at, working, in groups and things. But I also, because, I'm still working, I kind of need to be quite focused about what I spend time on. I've got quite bad osteoporosis, had to push for a diagnosis at 59. It's kind of treated like an older person's thing, and it's not. It's something that happens to you in your 50s. There's, the idea that you're kind of only at risk if you've already had a fracture. It's beyond belief, frankly. That just you know, the risk was there before the fracture, you know, and it's their behaviour. So it's, you know, there's just shutting stable doors after horses have bolted. So, you know, I kind of feel quite strongly that actually, you know, the breast test clinics and the DEXA things, you know, all needs to be rolled into one. So there's a kind of postmenopausal thing where women are kind of treated, you know, all in one place. So you don't have to take multiple mornings off work. You don't have to take your clothes off multiple times, find someone to park multiple times, and that you actually get advice. And when I had a diagnosis over the phone, I've been given a tablet to take once a week and told to come back in 5 years. And frankly, that's not good enough, you know. So I just basically, I mean, I know that people have multiple conditions and overlapping conditions and all of those things, but I personally need to be really focused about what I spend time on. So I'm just kind of wondering how, you know, whether or not that you know, we're going to be separate groups dealing with separate conditions, really, because obviously they do overlap. But I feel quite strongly that this is something that needs addressing quite specifically, and would actually, you know, that actually having routine bone density scans for women in their, you know, early 50s, mid 50s would save millions, you know. So it's, you know, and within quite a short period of time. So that's kind of what I want to focus on, and I just really would like to know how I could get involved with something like that, rather than sitting in on kind of general stuff, which I just don't have time for, and I don't know anything about these other conditions. I can't really contribute, and I don't have the time, but I do want to do something about something so that other women don't have to completely unnecessarily live with what I'm living with. I'm just wondering what the options are there, really.
Well, the way Rob's put an answer in chat is one of the things. He's directing you to an implementation network specifically for bone health, and that you might be able to join.
But I haven't seen that. Did it come up at the bottom while I was talking?
It's in chat, Hillary's. Rob's just put it into chat. Across the top is the chat button, and it's just in chat. What the group will actually focus on will be decided by the group. And it may be that, you know, that's why I think it's important that I make a personal commitment to being in touch with you who are attending here today, so that if we're moving into one subject that doesn't feel that it's relevant for you at that time, then don't join us. But if we're moving into another subject that you think it is relevant to you and you can dedicate some time to it, that's why I need to keep in touch with you and keep you updated as to what the group's doing, so that you can target your scarce resource, your scarce time.
Okay, but I mean, is there the possibility of being put in touch with other people who have, you know, a similar focus, so that we can just get on with stuff rather than, you know?
Yes, of course, there's a possibility to do that, Hilary. Yeah. And I think that I'll ask Julianne and Rob to make a note of that, so that we can progress that going forward, if that's okay, because I think Julianne will have your email address.
That's good. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Let's go to Dr. Jill Wakely.
Yeah, you do pronounce it like that.
Hi.
Not my fault. I married it. I was just putting a message in the meeting chat. Actually, I thought you wouldn't get round to me. I was wondering how wide the remit across Wales was going to be. Obviously, here mostly we've got Cardiff and Vale representatives. I don't live in Cardiff and Vale, so I was wondering, will we be able to influence what's happening in the rest of Wales?
I'm nodding. Yes. The idea of the group is that it's all Wales. It isn't just Cardiff and Vale specific. And in actual fact, I think that might be one of our challenges going forward, that we need to make sure that we do have a wider representation than just Cardiff and Vale. So I think that's a point well made, and something that we'd be working on actively to ensure that there was wider representation.
Yeah, Jill, just to reassure, the only reason that there's Cardiff and Vale written in here is because I'm in a different office today that would normally say NHS executive. So this is very much a national group. It's the whole of Wales. This is my clinical day job email rather than my national clinical lead email. It's a quirk of Teams, but yeah, definitely definitely national.
Okay, just time for a final question from Sylvia. Hi, Sylvia.
Hiya. I just wanted to know if ME is going to be covered, ME/CFS is going to be covered in this group, although ME and CFS are listed in the World Health Organization as conditions of the nervous system in the same ways as Parkinson's and MSR. It would appear that all services in Wales for ME patients come under physios, and that isn't really appropriate for people with ME. So I was just wondering if it was going to be covered under the MSK conditions, because that's where it seems to appear in all the health boards and in Welsh Government for some unknown reason.
I think Rob's going to answer that because he's just put his hand up.
Okay.
Yeah, so again, Sylvia, this is another really great a great example of co-production. So we've been contacted by several people over the last several months and weeks about this and where it's going to sit after that change. And I've actually scheduled a meeting with 5 of the different networks that would all have an interest in this. So women's health, neurology, musculoskeletal, and several others, and our clinical directors, to have that conversation about these conditions, which unfortunately fall between gaps in a structured system, and we need to find a structure that doesn't have gaps in it. So yeah, that will be happening soon. We'll make sure we find the right home for each of these conditions, and there are many of them. EDS has come up in the chat as a good example of things which historically have fallen through gaps, and we need to change that. And that's exactly what this forum's about, is to make sure that we get that right for all the people involved, so the clinical teams, and more importantly, the people using the services. So yeah, we are on that, Sylvia, and I'm hoping lots of other things like that come up through this forum that we can then take forwards, as Jana was saying, and really influence.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful that will happen, but I also think that's why we need to regularly communicate with everybody that's in this space. So there'll be some people that are able to come to meetings and would wish to come to meetings, but there'll be a whole load of other people who perhaps need to be, supported to make connections, as Hilary was describing, with others who have the same condition. And I really want us to create a really good communication between yourselves and the network and the lived experience group. And I think that's something that we'll need to work quite hard at. I think we're going to have to close the meeting for today, but I do hope that many of you who are in this space feel able to complete the application form, and I look forward to meeting you again on the 17th. And I think that's everything. Was there anything that you wanted to say, Rob?
I don't think so, Liz. No, just a massive thanks for everybody for coming and showing some interest, and I really hope we can get a good group of people together that can really take this forwards and influence, as Jana's described, and make sure we get the important topics dealt with in the right place and with the right people around the table.
Yeah. Thank you. That's it then. I think we're all good to go. Lovely to see you all, and I'll see you all again soon, hopefully.
Right.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is Julianne gone, Rob? Yes. I can't hear you. You've got you.
Sorry, yeah, I think so. Have you got time for a quick call later? Apologies, I missed this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just got a meeting now, and then I'll give you a call a bit later on.
Yeah, I'm in a meeting myself at 2, but I'm around after that. Yeah.
That's
okay,
brilliant.
Thank you.
Thanks so much,
Bye.
Liz. Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.
Bye.